Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to an all-new Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by the Buzz Conference and Kits Keep in Touch Systems. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and by following them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all of the awesome events that they are hosting. And Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you manage your business, build mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on marketing. And as you know, we are on a push to 100 reviews on iTunes, and so I would like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes, go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review. It really is that easy. And let me say again, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 138. She has a long history in the Muskoka, Ontario area. Born and raised there, as was her father, a local building contractor. Her family's established history in Muskoka means she has an unmatched knowledge of the Muskoka area and the local real estate market, both as it is today and historically. She has a true, authentic love for the beautiful lakes that dot the Muskoka District, as well as the numerous wonderful communities and incredible locales, saying it truly is a place like no other. Consistently ranked as the top real estate agent at Forest Hill Real Estate Inc. in Muskoka, it's her honor to bring her experience, skill, and local insights to each and every client interaction. She says, whether you're a buyer or seller, to her, it's all about creating a positive, low-pressure experience that helps her clients get that much closer to their goals. And to add to all the above, she is one of our real estate industry's powerful voices, always has her finger on the pulse with new trends, always involved in the conversation, liked by so many different people at all corners of the North American real estate landscape, involved with their local board and various different organizations, a fundraiser for the Habitat for Humanity, an award winner to cap it all off. And most importantly to me, she is a friend. This week on the show, I am joined by real estate broker Heather Scott. Heather, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
Technical difficulties today, delays, and
you know what? That's actually kind of, I think, like sums up my days is, you just roll with it. Like, things are always going to come at you and you just got to make the best of it and carry on. And that's it. So yeah, we're here finally.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's I'm excited to have you here. I know I was watching last night as you posted up, and I was seeing there was a lot of people that were excited to see on the show today, and that was really exciting. So thanks for sharing that out, and I hope everybody's gonna get the value they're looking for. I know they certainly will from you. So it's definitely a pleasure. But look, delayed and based on technical difficulties. So I'm going to jump right into it. I want to get serious for everybody here today. Let's talk market and let's talk marketing. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about this, and as we sort of seriously Muskoka, I figured let's get serious about real estate. I figured it all sort of work together. But tell me something: are we still seeing the migration north? Are we still seeing people really making that move to come up to cottage country, or is that sort of slowed down now that the better weather's here?
No, I don't. We haven't really seen that slow down yet, and I'm not sure that we will. I mean, especially in the summertime, it's always, one of those places where people are just dream of, and whether they're actually ready to buy in the summer or not, but they want to be here. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, why would you not want to be here? But it's been crazy. So it's been a whirlwind year for sure.
Listen, you know what? I will say that I remember. First of all, yeah, why would you not want to be there? Like, to me, it's like a no-brainer. Cottage country. You know how I feel about cottage country. I love it up there. But you had shared a video not too long ago from a presentation that you did. You probably remember what I'm talking about here. You put that up and you sort of said, you talked about the difference. And it was funny because I remember watching the clip and going, oh my God, like incredibly different from what you had said. Right.
It was.
And when we talk about, the cottage country market and the big city markets, and what's been the biggest change, or I guess that'd be the question. You're like, what is this biggest change that we've seen up around your neighborhoods and sort of in that market over the past kind of 18 months now?
Well, I think the biggest change we've had, and those great Facebook memories that came up that reminded me of that, but buying a cottage or buying a second home is a discretionary purchase. Like that's like you want it, you don't need it. You need a house to live in. You're moving for a job or a school change or family dynamics change. You need a different house to live in, but you don't need a cottage. But now, since the pandemic, all of a sudden, people have started to take that, well, it has to be perfect. It has to be just right. It has to be exactly what I want to spend my extra hard-earned money on. Now it's become more of a actually, no, I need this. I need this other space that we can escape from because we can't escape anywhere else. And that's the difference.
And so people are getting a lot pickier now with respect to what they want.
Not so much. Like they're just, they want to be here and they're willing to put their rose-colored glasses on and, see, how can I make this work for me? We had a traditional cottage buyer for years where they had, like a minimum number of waterfront feet that they wanted. They wanted a direction. They wanted a, type of topography that they had to have. They had a location. And now it's, that's kind of gone. Is there Wi-Fi? And is it water? Is it, whether it's a big lake, a small lake, a pond, or a river? Is it water? Does it give me privacy? Does it let me escape? And can I have Wi-Fi and still work?
I was about to ask you that. Yeah, the Wi-Fi part of it. What's the deal? How's Wi-Fi up in cottage country then? Seriously speaking, I mean, naturally, I imagine, you go to the bush, you're probably not going to have much, but in sort of your kind of more, populated areas, I guess we call it, is it strong enough up there for people?
No, honestly, it's not. I'm hoping that there are no issues here today that we don't.
Okay,
but
cool.
We always struggle, in the summertime. In January, we've got great service and we never drop a call. But the more, I'm not a technical person, but I think it's the more users that are using, it just spreads it a little thinner for everybody. Yeah. So it's getting better. It's reaching more areas, and it is definitely a priority on, all these lists for people that, do the things to make the things happen. Wi-Fi is a big one because it's for businesses, for people who work from home, for our tourism, everything it's become top of the list. It's not, does it have a sunset? Does it have Wi-Fi?
Well, listen, I want no more technical difficulties on this show today. I've had enough to begin with, and quite frankly, it is enough for me for a lifetime. You got to love technology, right? The best way to fix it. Listen, I encourage everybody, if you have a problem with technology and you're trying to figure out how to fix it, I got the solution. You just have to pick it up, take it to the highest point that you know of, and let it go. Anyhow, no. So tell me this: what kind of buyers are coming up that way now? When we look at the folks that are coming out of the city, and we say, okay, they don't have to be going back to work. There's that thought of not going back to the bricks and mortar when we call it the offices. Are we seeing from a demographic perspective, what age groups are coming up? Is it all over the map?
It's all over the map. We're seeing really younger as well.
Really?
And traditionally, we would see people who had a connection to cottage country, whether family in the past had a cottage or they've always stayed with friends who have a cottage, but they've got a little bit of cottage background to begin with. Now we're just seeing, brand new to cottaging, never cottaged in their life, no family history of cottaging. And that's the biggest influx of buyers right now.
It's interesting because when you look at, you think about having a young family, you start thinking about, I would talk the same, Joshua and Leah are here. And so I think about, what are they going to do for school? What are they going to do for sports? What are they going to do to be involved within the community? Are there parks to go to? Just ride their bicycle to. Is that anything that people should be aware of, that it's, the options are more limited, or is it just as abundant as it would be down in the city, but you're going to have maybe, one or two teams rather than, let's say, 20 teams?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, I think we are at the stage where we got everything that, not everything, but we've got the majority of all the things that you'd want in the city. We probably don't have, the full spectrum of activities that, kids will do that you have in the city, but we've got a good selection of them, and they'll just be, like you said, fewer teams. But they're, our schools are, and our teams and our sports and that, like, they're smaller, more community based, and every community around each little pocket has something different to offer. So it is about knowing, and just being guided to what's the right fit for you, because there is something all around the community that.
Well, look, that takes me right to that whole thing when we say, knowing what's right for you. This is where I'm going to emphasize the importance, and I'm going to do it for everybody, but I'm going to say it straight up. This is where I emphasize the importance of, again, working with a local realtor, right? Somebody who actually understands what's going on. I mean, look, it's one thing to say that if you're down in the city and you're going from, one community to another community, you could argue you're close enough to kind of be able to dig and do, but I will just put the argument out there, whether people agree, disagree, whatnot. But I'm going to throw it out there and say that when you're moving up to cottage country, you are moving up to a different place. It is a different style of living. There are different things that you need to know. And that's part of it right there, is just even understanding what's around and what are those communities, who has what to offer.
It's not just a matter of knowing what you can learn about what the municipality has to say, or what the house is a house is a house. And I can go and learn what's this street and what's, what are the services here, but you don't know the things that you can't learn, right? Like the things that you have to experience. And I equate that to the same as I don't know what I don't know about a condo on King West, right? Like, it's a condo. Can I get a parking space? Can't I? Like, I'm sure I could research all that and easy, but I don't know those little things that really make a difference if I'm going to love that area or not. And you can't learn that.
That's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. And people don't know what they don't know. It's the same thing we say about the clients. They don't know what they don't know. This is why we're here to educate people, but much the same. You can only provide so much education if you don't know.
Exactly.
Now, what about the typical price point? Like when we look at price point, is it all over the map? We've had our own sidebar combos about those things of like, what are you looking for and where are those price points at? And it seems like, you still have to be breaking the $1 million mark in order to get something that might be, reasonably on the water and of a fair size and in like decent condition and all that other stuff. What kind of pricing should people know about in terms of coming up that way?
Yeah, it's not what it used to be.
So they're not finding a cottage front, like 100-foot frontage on the water with a nice place for like $300,000.
You're not finding that little rock and pine shoreline with a little cabin on it, just a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, gentle, maybe a little sand beach, and it faces west, and it's not $499 anymore.
Right.
That anything that is you can still get a seasonal, meaning it is like truly a summer cabin with 2x4 stud walls, or has that smell to it when you go inside because it's probably been a little damp for far too long. And you, depending on who you are, you may or may not want to spend the night in it, but it's a piece of property. You can swim. It may or may not have a dock, and that's probably going to be in the $1 million to 1.5 price range.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is pretty much on whether that's on, the big 3, Muskoka, Ross, or Joe, or if that's on a small lake, or, even Lake of Bays. It's still, if you're going to go below the $1 million mark, it's not that it doesn't exist, but you have to have a little bit of creativity. You've got to have some rose-colored glasses, and you've got to be able to want to put in the work and have the long term. Because if you're just going to buy it done, you're well into 7 figures.
Wow. And by moving into that, like you just mentioned the big 3 lakes, and I was going to ask you about that too, because as we know, there are many little lakes around there that are also just as stunning. They're just not as big as the big three, or maybe as popular as the big three. What should people know about that? I mean, when they're coming up that way, it sounds like they should be very open to starting to explore other options, probably very much based on price point and I guess what they're looking for. And in that, what are people looking for when they're coming up again, now that we've seen a big change?
Well, I think what people have started to realize is that you don't have to be on the big three to enjoy the big three. You can be in the same community on a small lake and still have all the things that Muskoka has to offer, but it gets you in at a little bit better price point. So I think what a lot of people, someone who has to buy on Lake Rosso or Lake Muskoka, or, they're buying because in the same on, Mary, Ferry, Vernon, and Peninsula, like those chain of lakes and Lake of Bays, when you're on them, oftentimes you don't leave your general area. So if I'm in the Bala Acton Island side of Lake Muskoka, I probably don't go to Gravenhurst very often. Like I stay in that, and I probably don't go to the top of Lake Joe very often. I mean, you could. So that's what you're buying, is that you could do that, but you stay in that, which would be the equivalent of buying Brandy Lake or Clear Lake or Long Lake. Like you're buying the equivalent of that you're going to use of a long lake. So I think buyers have started to realize that they can still have everything that Muskoka offers, but they don't have to be on the big lake anymore. And
again, the importance of using a local realtor, because only you're going to know that. In fact, we have one of our Mindshare Masters, Susanna, just asked, are you seeing many Southern realtors referring to Northern realtors, or do we see a lot of folks trying to do it themselves right now? We sadly see a lot of out of area agents trying to do it themselves. And I mean, some have a history and it's a little bit different, they've grown up cottaging, but, they primarily work in the Toronto or Oakville or, Southwest Ontario market. But there are a lot that don't have that knowledge, and they're trying to do it themselves. And it's not easy for them. Like I see, it's a lot of driving. It's a lot of where I don't think I could handle working downtown and figure out, where do I park? What do you mean I can't park here? We have different challenges, but we have the same challenges. They're just different. So it's been a struggle, and it's a struggle whether you're on the listing side or the buying side, because, a seasoned local professional working with a seasoned local professional gets a different result than another combination. And that's okay. So here, talking about, waterways and talking about, building permits. I remember we had a conversation about even a building permit, how long you had to wait to just do that extra thing there. What is it like when we look at, a realtor coming out of the city, coming north to try to sell a property? They don't know enough about waterways. Like, again, you said it, they might've grown up being cottagers or whatnot, but they're not living there. They're not breathing there. They're not paying taxes there. Yeah. They're not working in there every single day. What are some of the things that you might say to people when it comes to like need to knows for anybody that's actually looking to purchase, just for them to even think to themselves, these are the types of things that I got to make sure that whoever I select is going to know this stuff? Well, it's true, because there's so much more to buying a cottage than just the actual purchase. But people need to know, everyone has a different level of how they want to maintain it and how they want to use it. And those are two really big factors of a cottage. It costs a lot of money to own a cottage, and it's a lot of work to own a cottage. A house is a lot of work to maintain. You got to cut the grass and clean the gutters and, everything you do to maintain your home. Well, now you've got another one. So are you going to do that yourself on Saturday morning? Or are you going to hire someone to do it? Because if you're not going to do it, you need to hire someone. You've got to find that person. You've got to make that contact, and you've got to be prepared to pay for it.
or you have to be prepared to do a little work. And that's kind of the traditional cottage model is, they come up Friday night, maybe you have a campfire and a beer. Saturday morning, you get up and you work till noon and do all the things. And then you enjoy the afternoon, right? And then you go home on Sunday. Like that's the traditional model.
Yeah.
But if that's not for you and you don't want to cut the grass and you don't want to have to clean this out or check the septic or, change the water filters or whatever it is, well, then you have to be prepared for that. And a lot of new buyers we're seeing are not maybe prepared for how much that costs them to hire someone, how hard it is to find someone to do that. And that's where you really need a great local connection to help set you up with that. And know that what you've done, some properties will require more maintenance than others. And it's all what fits you. Like you might have a different end goal and maintenance goal than somebody else does. So this property will work for you. But you know what? This one might not work for you because there's a whole lot more involved that you didn't realize. And you're going to hate it in a year.
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting when you said that because you started off like, you come up, you have a beer and a campfire. I'm like, yeah. Then you're like, you got to work in the morning. I'm like, whoa. Go enjoy the afternoon. They're like, drive home on Sunday. You're like, wait a second. How much relax time just happened? So, to that then, what about that sort of difference between, like, let's say I wanted to find a cottage property versus having a like full-time home? Am I looking at two different properties, or I imagine there's certain things that'd be like, well, for this one, that option you want to go here, but at that option you'd want to look at this. There's got to be some differences in that.
Well, yeah. So if you're buying a year-round home on a year-round municipal road, just like you would in any community in a city, that's one thing, right? Like you still have the same maintenance that you would have at home. If you're buying a seasonal cottage on a seasonal road, and maybe that road has a shared right of way with other cottagers on the road, and maybe that cottage, they don't have a cottage association or anything formal, or they don't hire someone. Maybe it's, David, it's your weekend to brush the weeds on the road, or it's your weekend to maybe fill these holes on the road. Right. So every spot is different. And maybe you didn't realize you bought into a road, or wait, it's my weekend to work. Right. Like you got to put in your share. I don't, honestly, I'm saying, like, I don't know. Like, I just know because that's how I grew up. But I honestly, I don't know how you learn it. Like,
once again, 1 point for the local realtor.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that to deter, though, right? But yeah.
No, I am. I totally am. Like I'm doing this straight up because I can't even tell you how I learned.
Right?
What's
right?
That?
I can't even tell you how I learned this. Like, oh yeah, I learned that by going here to find. No, you don't. Like, I know this because my dad told me this and my uncle told me this, and
But it's the same thing, Heather. You come down here and you're like, Dave, where do I go get whatever? And I could be like, oh, just go up there, go around the corner and go over here. And, you could see this person or go to that person. And
exactly.
The options down that way.
Yeah.
I won't know that in your neighborhood. I won't know that like in another city. Never mind, right?
That's right.
Not a cottage country or not.
Exactly.
Right. So that's now, okay. So being in Muskoka your entire life, like, I just lucky you. Like, I still can't get over. I know I tell you that all the time. But where does most of your business come from, Heather? Like, is it local residents, or are you getting most of it from people that are outside the area and that you've almost never met before? Just because it seems like a very different ballgame again, right?
It is, and that's always been a struggle in real estate here. Where do you put your marketing dollars in, and who do you market to? Are you marketing to the local Bracebridge home buyer, or are you marketing to the cottage buyer? Because they're not the same. So, we're probably around, probably almost 50-50. Like, the majority of our business definitely comes from people that we don't know, that find us, that are coming into the area, and they want a local expert to help them. The other part is, from the local community that we're connected with. And yeah, it's like, you don't know, like you can't learn some of those things. And
Right.
it's,
I just had another comment there from one of our Meister Masters. John says, absolutely valid points. I just dealt with something very similar where being local gives the advantage. And he goes, I'll just leave it there.
yeah.
Thank you for the comment, John. So Heather, then when it comes to, again, marketing, understanding that there can be some small town marketing that has some similarities to the big city, but there's also some really, really big differences. And can you share with us a little bit? What are you doing to build mind share? What kind of tools have you implemented that help you generate consistent business? Keeping you again as a top earner in your company, and certainly a go-to source for Muskoka.
We do a lot in the community. Like we always have. I think it's just who we are. We can't help but do. So, we do a lot with Habitat. We've got a build coming up right here in Bala, a duplex. But we're just well connected in the community because we do, and we put in a lot. I actually don't have any children. I have a dog and a husband, and that's enough. But both of us are very community-minded people, and we do a lot in our communities. You need help, we'll help. So that's where a lot of our local business stems from. We've also worked really hard to do good marketing, and truly value the business that we have and do. We don't take any sale or transaction for granted, whether it's a $200,000 sale, whether it's a $50,000 sale, or it's a $2 million or $5 million sale. They mean as much or more to each person that's doing it as the other. And we truly respect and appreciate that. It's a big deal. We have an important job to do. And it does require a lot of work. I can't do it from sitting in the office and staying clean all the time. Like sometimes I've got to pitch in and I've got to help get that house cleaned out and help, move these things around, or get some, branches trimmed because they haven't been done for 50 years, or, and the seller's not capable of it. Like some things you've got to get your hands dirty.
I will totally vouch for this, because there have been times like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I just helped so-and-so clean their boat, or I just raked so-and-so's leaves. And you're like, what? Yeah, I was just got off the tractor. Like, what? Oh yeah, we're just building a garage.
It's true.
It's true though. I know.
And it's a big deal, because when you're selling either the cottage that has been in your family for 98 years, it's a hugely emotional process. And it might be a dump to you, but to this person that's selling it, that's like all of their entire childhood and lifelong memories in there of all the amazing things they've done. So like that has to get treated, with a different sense than, there's somebody who, they've got a rental house, that was their house. They've got a tenant in it. They've realized, I'm not a landlord. I can't manage this. I can't do this anymore. And now you've got an irate tenant who doesn't want to leave. And the landlord's not a bad person. They're just saying, I'm not equipped for this. I don't know what to do. And now they need help in a different way. Right. And each one is a stress and a relief, and it's a, massive amount of money. And it needs a serious commitment and on our part.
Oh, absolutely. It's a different thing altogether. Now, Speaking of marketing, I know that you've got some billboards on the highway. We've had this conversation before, and I believe that depending on where you are, be it again in the city or further north per se, there's validity to having or not having these things. And I do believe, and I've said this many times before, to you as one-to-one, but in bigger senses, especially doing my rides when I'm going across the country, I'm pulling into areas that I've never been to before. I'm probably just passing through on the highway. I might know that it seems like a nice area, but I don't know much else about it. All of a sudden, bang, billboard. Whereas when you're in the city, it's so overly saturated that it's like, it's just another billboard. But again, everybody knows, and everybody listening right now, like, even close your eyes and think about this for a second, but you're driving up the highway in per se cottage country or just in more remote areas. When you see that billboard, you know you're looking. So I'm curious, Heather, how does it work for you in terms of like, do you just find it as a good source, like people tell you they see it, but also what do you do to support that to actually make it work for you?
Well, I mean, my mother-in-law tells me she sees it. Like my family will say, "Oh, I see your billboard," or the other people you never hear from. So it's a long game. But what I've found that it does is, you're right. Like it just gives you that little bit of like validation. And it's somebody who's driven by it 100 times. And, a year and a half later, they're thinking of selling. And I actually had a scenario that, they had a cottage. They drove by my one billboard like all the time. And a few years later, it came by and it was talking to a friend who is a business person in the community, very well connected, probably knows 10 or 20 agents like in his text messages. And he says, I'm thinking about selling the family cottage. And business person says, great. I'll give you a couple of names. And he says, okay. He says, well, you know what? I want to call this one girl. I drive by her billboard all the time. And he says, yep, she's one of the good ones. So, I had that local backup that not sure if he hadn't said, I want to call this girl Heather Scott because I drive by her billboard all the time. I know, oh yeah, absolutely. Or would he have said, oh no, call, Humpty Dumpty and they'll help you.
Yeah.
So, it definitely gives that validation, but if you just put out this is my opinion.
Yep.
If you just put out a billboard, it's not enough.
Right.
I think the billboard really needs to be you need to be connected in the community to really make the billboards work. You have to have other marketing, whether that's social media, but I think if your billboard is in that community, you need to be connected in that community. And the cashiers at the grocery store need to know your name because they drive by you've got to be in there.
How do you get them to do that then?
I don't know.
Relationship, conversation, just be there, be friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't go through the grocery store without them saying, "Oh, did you see that house down the street from me? And what did that one sell for?" And like I got to be up on my my immediate stats for the week every time I go to the grocery store because I know they're going to ask me, "What did that sell for?" Oh, I heard so and so selling, and I'm thinking, do you know, are you talking to me? Like, do you know me?
Well, you see, and there's the big similarities and the big differences between, again, where your billboard is placed and what, where you sell real estate per se, let's say like that. Because again, in the big city, we're going to get a lot of saturation. Much the same, there's a very similar thing there that says, no matter what, you've got to support it. And that means involvement in the community. That means getting involved. And, you brought up, I mentioned off the top, and you brought up Habitat for Humanity. You're doing a ton of amazing stuff over there. I know that you do a lot of stuff, even outside the office on the street, just little events that you guys put on. It's that thing of, I don't know the better way to say this maybe, but like shaking hands, kissing babies kind of thing. Like it's, you're out there meeting people. It is. And we look at it like last March when, we're still in pandemic and we're coming out in the spring, we're like, what does the community need? And we thought, I think we need to help the food bank. And we were just getting, so we just literally a Saturday morning, we put a table out in the parking lot and Christina's kids made some like Bristol board signs. And I think we raised $5,500 that day. And it was just, and it was great interaction with the community. We didn't actually, we don't think in those terms. Like, it's just like, okay, we need to do something to help the community here and we could do this. And this, few hours of our time, it's cold, whatever, but if we get $100, we get $100 and we had a great day. But those things all then back up having the other marketing.
of the billboard.
That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
You can't just put it up there and think, okay, this thing's going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, especially when it comes to smaller towns, I do believe that the billboard has massive exposure. And I believe that if you can parlay that by actually integrating yourself in the community, having some support mechanisms around it, you can really win from that. Now, you brought up social media for a second there as you were saying that. You're very heavily involved in social. I know you and Christina, and what's up to Christina? She's awesome. You guys do a lot. You're very active on your social media channels. But even more so, you do it right, Heather. You're very involved in the conversations with people. And by no means do I want to spin that as like you are like always on social media every single minute of the day, because we know how busy you are with other things. But you do carve out time to actually act with purpose on social. You get involved in the conversation. And I mean, even, yesterday's sort of responses and engagement with your own post were a good sign of that, of just how many friends you've built. What can you say to anybody when it comes to social media about what they can do to really make it work for their business? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And honestly, I look at it like, oh my God, they're doing it so much better than I am. And oh my gosh, I wish I had that creativity. And how did they do that? That's so much better. Like, I'm just so random. And I think that actually is part of it, that if you don't care, don't post. Don't just post for this. Like, at least this is how I feel. And I don't like, because I know I should post more than what I do, but I am busy. I'm in the car a lot. I don't have the time, but I also feel like if I don't post something that I care about, how am I going to engage with it? Mm-hmm. If I don't post that, usually I post out of emotion. I'm mad. I'm happy. I love it. Like, it's cute. It's got to have a reason for me to post it, which then I think in turn you get somebody that you're engaging with who maybe shares the opposite opinion. You have to respect them all.
Yep.
But then at least it's a bit easier then to have that interaction. If you don't like dogs, you're not going to be interested in anything that I do. And that's okay. I'm not meant to probably get along with all of the snake loving people, because that's not my thing. I think things with shoulders.
Even though I could fully see you like at the cottage where you'd be like, oh, snake grabbing.
Oh no, I would push your children in front of me if I saw a snake. I apologize right now. But dogs, we're going to be friends. Any other animal, we'll be friends. But if, so I post a lot with I'm got a background in horses and equestrian. So the Canadian horse defense right now, that's a huge thing for me about live export being shipped out of the country. It's so sad. And, if you don't care, you're not going to engage with me. If you care, you will. And we're going to have something to talk about. The same if you're not interested in boats and, mosquitoes and, all the cottage things that we talk about, or the water levels, or, the things that go on in the community, then you're not going to engage with me, and that's okay. You're probably not my person, but, we're going to, you're going to find, if you like shoes and fashion and that's your thing, you're going to find somebody who likes shoes and fashion. If I just go and start posting about something I have not interest or really don't know, if I went and started posting about chess or, getting, something that I can't respond to, or oh, geez, I only brushed the surface on that topic because I thought this was an interesting article to post, I'm going to look like an idiot.
Well, and I'm going to go so much further beyond just the posting, because again, you've built some wonderful relationships with people, mm-hmm. and I do not exaggerate when I say coast to coast, north and south of the border. You've built a wonderful network of people, and I mean, I'll speak for myself in one respect of that to say that's because we engage back. That's because we continue to be there, and that's mm-hmm. outside of just posting. You really do a good job of that. You're very engaged with the conversations. You do take part in conversations. You are present. And that's what really builds the relationship. So I definitely put more emphasis on, engaging with other people's content mm-hmm. versus just posting your own.
Absolutely. And I think there's also something that you have to be afraid. You can't be afraid to show who you are either. You have to like, I feel like sometimes being your authentic true self is overused and, done, but you have to not be afraid. Like I have had, fitness and body image issues and ups and downs, forever. And, it's, you need to know that, because if you think all I ever did was a fitness competition 6 years ago, and then you show up and see me today, and I'm like, oh, well, that was then, this is now. I've had my struggles and my highs and my lows. And I think that's another thing that people connect with. And, they connect with that. I can't cook. Katie burgers, I'm not a gourmet, but I love to, I'm not, you're going to come over and I'm not going to be Martha Stewart, but you're going to be welcome. And you have to just be who you are, good, bad, or otherwise.
And that's
some days I have curly hair. Some days it's ponytails. Some days no makeup. Some days, we are who we are, and you just be you.
But in doing that, you garner a lot of business from it, a lot of relationships because of it. Now, off the top, I'd asked you about, are you seeing a lot of business from, referral sources? Or out of towners, and you said a lot of it does come from out of towners.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine that there's got to be some sort of referral business that does come through.
Absolutely.
And maybe even more to it, and to get specific for our audience today, what about the whole thing of agent to agent referrals? Do you do a lot of that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge. And that was the huge kind of opening of my career, basically, was agent to agent referrals, because I had no other business. But what I could do was I could connect with, agents outside of my market that probably were connected to these people. And that definitely, that is a connection thing. It's not just, I'm going to send a postcard to 1,000 agents in the GTA.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that. How do you leverage the whole thing then? Like agent to agent connection? Because again, and just, I want everybody to kind of visualize it. It's that whole thing of like, you're sitting there. I don't care where you are, small town, big city, you are in your office by yourself, doors closed, there's nobody else around. What are you doing to leverage agent to agent connection?
The one thing I learned a long time ago was actually, I think, Tony Joe. And, you'd go to a conference and
Tony's actually going to be on the show next week.
Oh,
it's funny awesome. You just brought that up.
Yeah, no, Tony's a good friend. But Tony taught me a long time ago where you'd go to a conference and there'd be somebody who'd be handing out something on every chair in the auditorium. And he would lay out 5 business cards and be like, these are the 5 business cards I need to distribute today. And those are the 5 people I'm going to come back and talk to. So that was a big lesson, that I don't need to come away with 50 connections here. I just need to come away with 3 to 5. And the same thing. And the one reason that it's been a long time since we've been in that environment, but I still like to collect business cards when I'm out, because at the end of the day, you've had a busy day, you've met however many people you've met that day or come across or said hello to, and they've given you a card you've picked up. I can go back and I can go, no idea who they are. No idea who they are. No, oh yeah. Yeah. Remember her. Yeah. I gotta follow up with that one. Yeah. Follow up with that one. Can't remember who they are, but that's, you only need 3 to 5. And if you keep working just a few each time, it's a whole lot easier. You get a whole lot better connection than just trying to, spray and pray.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Throw it at the wall and hope that something sticks. Well, it's the same thing that we talk about every single day, right? Meet one new person a day. It equals 365 people a year. Those are quality leads. It doesn't mean they're going to do any business with you, refer you anything. The reality is they know who you are. You're building a like you, trust you factor. And that is where opportunities come from. And I think that that's one of the biggest missing links in this business that most have a misconception around, about the time and effort it really takes to build a relationship. And the fact that business comes from those, not so much the others. I mean, I can speak very personally. When I make phone calls, we will do calls. I will talk to people for, I can't even tell you how long. And some of them have never done business with me. but there's such a strong relationship that they might have referred me a ton. Maybe they haven't done anything to refer or deliver, but you know that the trust factor is there. At that point when they need you, they're not looking anywhere else. Like
That's
you're
right.
the person they're going to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about any other business that holds as much truth when it comes to real estate, right? Like we're not buying this every day.
Yeah, no. And I think that even goes back to like the career of an agent where, a new agent is looking for this accelerated path to, being a millionaire. And it doesn't work that way. Like you have to, you got to earn your dues. You've got to get that like one contact a day and, not 500. And all of a sudden I'm going to be like, it takes time. You have to build a foundation. You don't learn to jump until you learned, your flat work when you're horseback riding, like it's one step at a time.
I was just going to ask you then. So, just being a total pro in the biz, what advice do you have for, any agent who literally just got their license, like fresh in the business, they're just licensed, they're listening to this right now. What would you say to them, like, as a starting point?
That's a great question. I think a starting point is just starting to work your database. And if that's 10 people or 20 people or, and start building that, just work your database and work your local community. Get involved in your community. But get involved and give because you truly want to, just not, okay, I've got my real estate license now. I've got to, I've got to do something. So, all right, I'll do this. Like it doesn't, you have to want and you have to care, like truly care. And that, I think that's what makes the biggest difference is, it's absolutely, you might be lucky and you might, start in a hot market where it's easier, but believe me, these markets don't stay like this forever. And I'm not a pro, like I'm still learning, like we're always learning and we're always adding and we're always, needing to every year, every January, you start back at zero. It doesn't matter who you are, how long you've been in the business. We all start back at zero and we do it again. And it's just that, it's that little bites all the time. Always be trying to improve little pieces one at a time, and you will get there. Real estate is like investing. It's the long game. And same in your profession. It's, you want to last in this business and you want to have any kind of longevity and success, little bits and baby steps, and you're on your way.
So great words of advice there. So let's say I'm an agent that's 5 to 10 years in the business. Would you say, I'm going to go out and say it. A lot of what you just said holds very true for them, but now I'm 5 to 10 years in the biz. I've been doing good. Things are well. Yeah. I'm doing well. And geez, yeah, it has been a great market. So it's been a lot easier. But we know, and I love the fact that you brought that up, that this stuff doesn't last forever. And what goes up must come down. What goes down must go up. But when and what and whatever, we don't know. But so there's an agent that's been 5 to 10 years in the business, and in a fairly decent market, let's say over the past 5 to 10, they're still looking to find that next level. Mm-hmm. What would you say to them in terms of just, again, a piece of advice to go, okay, look, you kind of get what's going on. You've been putting the work in. Here's what you got to think about.
I think what we forget is that, like the way we do real estate today is different than the way we did real estate 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And the way we'll do real estate probably in a year or 2 years or 3 years is going to be different from how we do it today. I think what's really important is staying connected in the industry. Things like buzz, like what they've been creating is fantastic because, those are where you stay connected with other industry professionals who are doing the same thing. And, we're all learning and we're all having to constantly add to the toolbox or, because it's true. Like the way I did business when I was, my first 5 years is not the way I did business in the next 5 years. And it's not the way I'm going to do business in the next 5 years. It's, we've made mistakes. We've learned how to do things better. We've learned new technologies. We've learned a new way of interacting and a new way of marketing. And I think you just have to really be aware that something new is coming, and we have to be not chasing shiny objects, but know that just because this is the way dad did it, and this is the way grandpa did it, and this is the way my mom always did it, this is the way I'm going to do it. I got my business from duty time. Well, duty time is probably not where, the right stream anymore. Maybe, you were a winner at open houses and that was all you ever, we've had to learn how to
change that
do that differently. So there's always going to be something that you're going to have to adapt to and learn to adjust to keep your business going.
Would you say then that that's probably the bigger overarching message in terms of like advice for any agent would be exactly that, is learning to adapt and just not necessarily chase the bright shiny objects, but again, adapt to what's going on?
Adapt. Yeah. And I think it's like in any business, Old Navy doesn't display their clothes the way they did 20 years ago. And, the bakery down the street that sells scones and Chelsea buns have had to add products each year and, package some things a little differently. So they're not doing business the same way. And real estate, we have digital signatures now. Like, we don't fax anymore. We have an online database of listings, and those are things that it wasn't that long ago that you still had a listing. Like, it was only like 20 years ago. You still had pages of listings every day. We have electronic lock boxes. You have to be willing to adapt to the changes that come.
And change is ever evolving, especially in our business. But once again, that reminder of not necessarily chasing, let me change that. Not necessarily. Do not chase the bright, shiny object. Have a rhyme and a reason to why you're doing what you're doing.
That's right.
How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
I feel like my day every day is a list that gets triaged constantly. That's what it feels like. So at the end of the day, if I think it's successful, if I think I've checked off all like the high priority emergencies and I've made progress to the next day, and if I've got my list for the next day, I think that's my success. If I'm still working on the same scratched out, moved around list from today, then I'm probably not done. If I've got the new list ready to go the next day, I feel like that's probably a win.
I like that. So like sort of preparing the day before for the next day. I like that.
Yeah.
So tell me this.
Where I got that
from. Now, one last question here would be, if you could deliver a message to the entire industry right now, in fact, let's do that. What last words or tips would you say to everybody who's tuned in to get them, to help themselves get out there, build that mind share and just overall do better business? This is a moment to just, deliver a message to everybody to just kind of go, let's do this or let's think about that. What are those final thoughts from you?
I think that you have an important job. You have a very serious job to do that can change lives, literally. And you have to take that seriously. You need to not rest on laurels, not rest on the knowledge that you have. Know that there is something else out there that you can learn, that you can collaborate with, that you can help. We're an industry of like lone wolf, individuals that we don't have to be. Like, we can be a more collaborative society and be professional if we're all trying to. There's enough business to go around, and not every client is your client. But you just got to open up, not be afraid to learn, and not be afraid to change. And do it because you love it, not because you think it's easy, or do it because you love it.
I love that. It's a great message coming from a great person, an industry leader once again. And I thank you for making the time today. Where can people find you?
SeriouslyMuskoka.com. SeriouslyMuskoka.com. Like that's just, we're Seriously Muskoka.
Yeah.
You can find us on Instagram at Seriously Muskoka, and Facebook. It's like, yeah, call me. Text me. I prefer texting. I'll call you back, but don't leave me a voicemail. Please just text me. 705-644-0272. But yeah, Christina and I are here, and yeah, we're happy to help. We're happy.
Well, I would double down on that and say, by all means, two awesome people up there in Muskoka. Definitely, Heather. Apologies for the technical difficulties off the start of today's show, but I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the insight and, us getting serious about real estate today from Seriously Muskoka. Thank you once again for joining me. You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call. We'll learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, well, how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. So please be sure to go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate us, and leave a review. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at MindShare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. I want to once again thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference, or by following them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all of the awesome events they are always hosting. I also want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for also sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.